Sure.
Yo, and welcome to the Rational Football League Show. This is a podcast for rational football fans. I am Brendan Ford. You can find me on Twitter at Brendan Ford, and I am joined by one of my best friends, Emmett Sworat. You can find him on Twitter at Emmett Allen. Emmett, how's it going, bro?
It's going great, Brendan. It's going great.
Good, man. I know that we just wrapped up the draft weekend. Bro, how are you feeling? I know I'm actually more tired than what I was before the draft weekend because I sat on my ass for the entire 3 days, bro.
Damn. Yeah, I mixed feelings here. Mixed feelings. It was a draft for the 49ers, I'll say that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm ready.
same.
I'm ready to get into it when you are.
Yeah, bro. And this, I think we should give the people a quick background on our own selves. So we met at college, what, back in 2017, man?
Yeah.
A long, long time ago. I'm a diehard Chicago Bears fan. You're a diehard Niners fan. And we said, hey, we might as well make a podcast because everyone and their moms have podcasts
And I got time to
nowadays,
talk
right?
myself in the car.
Yes. And we're like, you know what? We want our voice to be heard. We want to give our opinions out there. And we're like, let's just start a show about football, the Bears, and the Niners. So here we are.
Yep. Here we are. Let's go.
All right, man. Let's just go ahead, hop right into it here. I know that we want to talk about certain draft value for certain like positions. We're talking about running backs, safeties, whatever. What is your first thought on like if you were a GM in the league, right? Would you draft a running back high? Would you draft a safety high? Would you only focus on those value spots like quarterback, tackles, edge, whatever? What are your quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like if you're a GM, you have to go best player available. I think the only thing that kind of supersedes that idea is if there's a quarterback. Like if there's a quarterback and you need one, you think he's a superstar, absolutely take it within the first round. Take him with the top three picks. Take him with whenever you can get your hands on one. But I don't necessarily see anything wrong with drafting a running back high if you think he's a superstar, if you think he's the going to be the best player on your team. I mean, look, that Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley kind of guy. I don't see any issue, spending that kind of a pick on that kind of guy. I mean, he can lead your offense. He can be the engine that drives everything. So I don't. To me, I don't see a necessarily decrease in value in those kind of positions, either with like safety too. If you have a guy, you're going to tell me if Ed Reed was in the draft right now, you wouldn't take him top four.
Right.
So
True. True. I think I'm in the same boat, man. Like you have to draft best available. I wonder though. I guess if you're like the Kansas City Chiefs, right? If you're Andy Reid and like company, are you still drafting best available, or do you more draft for need if you're in that Super Bowl window? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
I mean, I still feel like you probably would because the only way in the NFL you can maintain a team nowadays is you need to have those backup guys. So if you're looking at the Chiefs drafting another receiver, you have Tyreek Hill that gets traded to the Dolphins. Now you're recouping first round picks or potential value picks while still having a former best player available receiver in the draft to use. So, I think it's one of those things where it just kind of provides those deeper levels to your roster that could be beneficial in the future, especially as contract times comes up for guys.
true, true. I mean, I think I'm in that same boat too, man. Like, if a running back is a dog, he's gonna be a dog. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'll take him top 10 if he was there. And I guess it also depends on your own board, right? Like
Right.
a team might value a running back differently than like a different team. So I guess it all depends what you value your team, which makes it also hard as us fans to kind of guess and predict what our team is going to do. That's why I kind of laugh at all those mock drafts. Okay, there are
Mhm.
people out there doing 7 round mock drafts. It's like, bro, I will not dedicate any time to doing a 7 round mock draft because that's like literally impossible to predict what's going to happen given like all the trades. And you don't know how a certain GM is going to value a different player. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You're just kind of, I mean, it's a fun activity, but it's one of those things you kind of need to not take yourself too seriously. You need to like understand there's no way. It's like trying to do March Madness. Like you're not going to get that right. There's
Right.
upsets, there's trades, there's things that
There's
happen.
no way.
So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely hear you. Let's go ahead. We will get to our own opinions about the Niners and the Bears. But we want to touch on our general thoughts on the NFL draft as a whole. Emmett, who do you think, or what teams, could be more than one, who do you think had the best draft or had this a very, very good draft?
I'm gonna have to go with the team that usually has one of the better drafts. I'm gonna have to go with the Steelers. I mean, those dudes in that front office know what they're doing. They're great at scouting talent. They always seem to have these surprise picks that become superstars in 2 to 3 years, and I think they're just great. I mean, if you kind of look over it, they got Broderick Jones at 14, who's one of the top left tackles out of Georgia. In the second round, they're able to get the legacy pick, Joey Porter Jr., again, one of the top corners in the drafts. I mean, it fills a need. They got Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin, defensive tackle. He can play the 3 tech. He can play the 1 tech. He gives you good pass rushing ability from the inside. He's a run stuffer, and his leadership qualities, which is very underrated. And I get it, you can't see it on the field, but he keeps your defense even. And when things are going wrong, you just gave up a 70-yard touchdown. He rallies the troops. He gets the guys back there. Darnell Washington, your future left tackle if you need him to be, or your superstar, wide receiver. The dude's a monster with the ball in his hands. He can block his butt off. They got Nick Herbert, who's a TJ Watt clone. Just an absolute wrecker of offenses. I think you give him a couple of years behind TJ Watt, learning from him, put on about 30 pounds of muscle if his frame can take it. That's going to be impossible to stop pretty soon there. And who else did they get out of there? Oh, Corey Trice was a guy that kind of surprised me. He slipped in the draft. I think it was ESPN that had him as like their 87th ranked prospect. And I know Lance Zierlein from NFL.com had him as a 4th or 5th round grade, I believe. And they ended up getting him in the 7th round, pick 24, 241 overall. So to get that kind of value for a guy that could potentially become a starter for you at the end of the 7th round, I mean, that's just astronomical value. That's spending a quarter and getting $100 bill. So
that's true. I wonder they can kind of turn things around too. I know they they didn't finish the season too bad last year, right? Didn't they win 8 games, nine games last year? The
yeah,
Steelers?
I think they did end up going about 500. It was Kenny Pickett's rookie year. They had Trubisky starting the year out, so trying to get everything figured out with the offense. Kenny Pickett eventually kind of came in, took over the reins, and eventually seems to have kind of figured it out more towards the end of the season. So he's going into year 2, and they got him some weapons to see if they can't get back to the playoffs.
Yeah, dude, Tomlin is like the GOAT.
Oh my God, yeah,
he's
so freaking good.
I remember when they were a couple games under 500, right? And I don't think he's ever had a below 500 season as a head coach.
Nope.
I think that's like the stat. So I was like, I don't know, this might be the first seasons. I think they did go 9 games last year. I think I remember them not finishing below 500.
Yeah,
which is incredible.
Streak remains.
Dude, it's wild. But let me give my first team too. I think the Texans had a solid draft. And I don't really so I'm not gonna go through every one of their picks, but I really enjoyed what they did in the first round. I mean, being able to take their franchise quarterback, CJ Stroud, and then make that huge move to trade their 12th pick and jump all the way to 3rd and take Will Anderson, who is arguably the best defensive talent in this draft, is wild. I mean,
it's such a big brain move to take the quarterback first, so that way the pick 3 is devalued because there's not one of the top 2 quarterbacks still available, so you can get it for even cheaper than you would have if you just tried to get it initially.
Yeah.
So such a draft day move, like from the movie.
It really was. I was like, damn, that just like happened. I know Daniel Jeremiah put out a mock and he like said that. And I remember reading, I was like, there's no way it's gonna happen. That's like you said, that's too much movie-ish stuff going on. There's no way it's gonna happen. And then they pulled it off, which is crazy. And then I really enjoyed their pick in the 4th round. Was it 4th? I mean, no, in the 3rd round, they took Tank Dell out of Houston. He's a little bit smaller guy, but dude, he's explosive. He's so fast, and he's arguably probably one of the best route runners in this entire class, right? So you have CJ Stroud. He paired him with a very nice. I'm assuming Tank Dell will play slot, and he'll be a mismatch for a lot of teams. I wonder, they still have Brandon Cooks too, right? Or no?
Yeah, I don't think they actually ended up ever trading him.
So him and Tank Dell, boom, 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 right? And then
they got the running back.
Dameon Pierce.
Yep, Dameon Pierce, stud.
He's
Stud.
good. He's good. I kind of wish the Bears had drafted him last year, honestly. But
Mhm.
and then I'm gonna botch his last name. I heard it so many times, but I just can never remember how to actually pronounce it. Henry Tuato, whatever, backer out of Bama. I really like this. They got him in the 5th round, which is pretty solid. He's a multi-year starter at Bama before he transferred from Tennessee. Um, I think he's gonna be a leader and like in the locker room. I'm assuming he's a day one starter. Maybe
Possibly.
I don't remember who they have at backer even. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, and D'Amico Ryan's, he's a former Bama guy. He's the new head coach. He played linebacker in the NFL for the Texans and Eagles. You know, developed, draft and helped develop Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Aziz Al-Shaair.
Yep.
So, I mean, Henry there, it seems like he's under great tutelage with D'Amico Ryan's in Houston. So,
Yeah, dude. I think they had a solid few picks there. I think they're set up for the future pretty well. And in the AFC South, I mean, it's relatively weak, right? So
yeah,
I think they can at least compete for the AFC South and see what happens.
big first year turnaround, especially with the new head coach there. So,
Yeah, no, it's solid. Emmett, who's your second favorite team or draft class?
I'd have to go with the Colts strictly because every guy I
Okay.
thought the Niners should draft, they drafted.
All right.
I mean, it was. I think they got Blake Freeland in the 4th round, right after I wanted the Niners to take a right tackle. Um, Gosh, I can't remember off the top of my head about everyone else they drafted, but I remember just looking through the list, thinking, "Wow, I wanted him. I wanted him." Oh, Will McCovey from University of Miami, a tight end. I think they got him in the 5th. He's more of like a receiving back, kind of in a Travis Kelce kind of mold. But they are able to pick him on the 5th, and I'm sitting there thinking, dang, that would have been a great tight end 3 for the Niners. And here they were just drafting them right before they can get on the clock again. So that'd
Yeah.
probably be my number 2 was the Colts.
I mean, not to mention they have AR-15 now too.
True.
Then they got Juju Brents, the Kansas State cornerback. He's
Yep.
gonna be solid. He's a big
Oh,
guy. He is physical. He can do man, zone,
yep. And
everything
especially after their what was it, the Sugar Bowl game, I think, against Alabama.
against Bama. Yep.
I mean, he really showed out in that game. So
I don't know how to. I'm so bad with these names, but they drafted a D end. I think he ended up playing. He's kind of like a tweener. I think he played inside and also the edge from Northwestern and the
yeah,
4th round, like Tomia. I don't want to say the rest
yeah,
of
he
it.
was projected. I think he was a projected 1st or 2nd round pick too, and they ended up getting him
He
in the 4th
was.
round. So, I mean, again, just great value there. A guy that could, really step in and eventually grow, and you're getting him in the 4th round. So,
Yeah. No, they did have a solid class, and like I just said about the Texans, the AFC South is wide open. So they're also a team, depending how well AR-15 can kind of get going,
yep,
can compete
new head
for
coach
sure.
again. No situation, new head coach.
Yeah, true. And he came from the Eagles and have experience with Jalen Hurts,
Yep,
another
has experience
dual threat
with
guy.
mobile quarterback. So, yeah.
They kind of round out this segment here. My second favorite draft class, I have to give it to the Eagles. I mean, they're pretty much the Philadelphia Bulldogs now because all the Georgia players they have. But I mean, they took a huge risk with Jalen Carter, right?
Yeah.
But what I respect about the Eagles is like they said, and I guess this wasn't really a smokescreen. I remember reading rumors saying like, yeah, the Eagles will take Jalen Carter, and they're like, I think even if Jalen Carter didn't fall to them, I think they probably were trying to make calls to trade up in the top 5 to even take him.
Yeah, didn't
I
they
think that
didn't
was
they
their like
trade
guy.
theirs to get
Yeah,
to
they
9 to
went
get?
from 10 to 9
Yeah.
for whatever reason because I don't think the Bears were going to take him. That's why they kind of traded back like one spot. But I think no matter what, they're going to get their guy, and Jalen Carter was their guy. They needed that 3 tech, and well, they actually don't really need him. They have Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis there too.
Yeah.
So
Well, they
like
just lost Javon Hargrave to the Niners
Devon
actually, so
Hargrave
he
too.
might be a replacement for him.
Yeah. I guess you can't have too much talent up there and that D line, Um, and then they came around at the end of the first and got Nolan Smith, who
Oh,
was seen as one of the better like backers in this class too.
yeah.
Uh,
I saw Reddick little clone there. So
yeah. And then they took that Georgia cornerback in Ringo,
yep.
and who was supposed to be, I think he's supposed to be like he think like 2nd round grade. even
Yeah, they
again.
get second, third round grade, and then again, when the fourth round again.
Yeah, when the fourth
Yeah.
round,
This
which
fourth
is
round for some of these
huge
teams
value.
is crazy.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of sleepers in like the third and fourth round there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if like we talk about teams' big boards, like maybe they had a different top 100 list than like Mel Kiper Jr. had, but like a lot of players outside
I think a
of
lot
the
of
top
teams have a
100.
different big board than Mel Kiper Jr. has. So
I think so. I think so. I think that's a topic for like a different day, but I think Mel is losing his like touch a little bit. But I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of my own or our own thoughts there on our favorite draft classes.
hey guys, why just go viral on your first podcast? Well, we said Mel Kiper is losing his touch.
Yeah, right. He's gonna add us and like just roast the hell out of us.
Yeah.
What have you guys done?
Like Pat McAfee does.
Yeah, right. Oh, dude. Speaking of Pat, I would love like if I was ever a guest on a show, I think that'd be a peak of my like life.
Oh
Honestly,
yeah, and they
honestly,
have so much fun there. So
they have so much fun. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about our kind of a lot of various different stuff here. I kind of want to touch on our overall like favorite pick, least favorite pick, most surprising pick, least surprising pick, our best value pick, and like the weirdest value pick that we think over the general just like draft. Edmund, do you kind of want to kick us off here with your favorite pick and maybe just kind of go like back and forth here?
yeah, sounds good to me. I went with my favorite pick was Christian Gonzalez out of New England at 17. I mean, he was NFL.com's top ranked corner. He was the seventh overall prospect according to them. And Belichick has a tremendously great history with drafting and developing corners through his tenure in New England. So yeah, he has all the natural abilities to be a star in the league. I think a lot of the weaknesses for him coming out were a little more of his technique, the little intricacies of the game. Not getting your eyes caught looking in the backfield, maybe a little bit better with hip mobility. I think Bill Belichick is a great coach to sit here and get him coached up on those little nuances. So he could be a quick right. He could surprise us and maybe even be the defensive player of the year.
I think so. I think so. And to your point, like when he was picked by the Patriots, I was like, yeah, that seems like a guy who would play for like Bill. Like that just seems like a Patriot player. I think he's gonna be a next cornerstone of your like defense.
Yeah.
I'm surprised how he slipped so far. But yeah, dude, I think that's a great choice for me. Just going along the same lines, what I said about the Houston Texans, I loved what they did with jumping up and taking Will Anderson at number 3. I just think that like he's going to jumpstart or help jumpstart that defense, and being able to get both CJ Stroud and Will Anderson there is huge. Now I do know they gave up a good amount of assets to make that jump. They swapped first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they gave Arizona their 2023 second round pick and gave them also a 2024 first and a third, right? So I kind of hope it works out for them because they gave up a lot of assets there. But I just love that move, and I think it'll fit well in that defense.
Yep, he'll be able to be a four down lineman. He'll be able to be a standard defensive end. He'll have his hand on the ground. He'll get to play that standard in the 4-3 defense. Allow him to just get upfield on pass rushing situations. He doesn't have to two gap, which as a former defensive lineman I hated with all my passion.
Yeah.
So I think he probably went to a really good situation. And D'Amico Ryans is a fantastic defensive coordinator that knows how to set his guys up. So,
I mean, the Niners arguably had the best defense last year and for past like couple seasons, right? So like they're coming there. He's gonna be a big piece of that defense, and then they're gonna just go in there and just compete for that AFC South for sure. Emmett, who is your least favorite pick?
I mean, I don't think this would be a shocker to anybody that watched the draft. It'd have to be Jahmyr Gibbs from Detroit, 12, but not for the reason you think. I don't hate the value of it. If that's your guy, that's your guy. And watching him at Alabama, I mean, he was a stud. I mean, his contact balance was insane. You just watch him bounce off of bodies. His receiving ability definitely reminds you of Alvin Kamara. His ability to find the hole and hit it. I mean, I really, really did like the player. The reason I didn't like the pick is because your defense is one of the worst in the leagues. Like your offense was stellar. I think they had what top 5 offense, top 10 offense. They're averaging some crazy amount every time we looked at the scores, like 41 points. Um, it could have been a cost-saving move with Swift because he was scheduled to be a free agent at the end of the year. So maybe it was a matter of, hey, we're not going to pay this guy anyway. Let's draft his replacement, trade him away, get some value back. But when you have such a need on defense and you had Christian Gonzalez right there, you have a need at corner, the top corner is available, and you went running back instead. That's the reason I don't like it. And it's not necessarily the player. It's just what other options were available to you that would have fit your need, and that was the pick you went with.
True. I gotta keep the same theme here. My least favorite pick was also from the Lions. I did not like Jack Campbell. And to your point, I understand they had one of the worst defenses, but just looking at value, they picked him 25 spots, 25 spots higher than when he was expected to go, right? So I think they drastically just overreached for him. And again, I'm not knocking his talent, right? He won the Buckets Award last year. He was the best off-the-ball linebacker in college football last year. I'm not doubting his talent at all. I'm just looking at solely the pick and the value around it. They almost 25 spots higher. There's almost a round earlier than what is a round earlier than what he should have went, right?
Yeah.
But to your point, I think they had the 31st worst defense last year. So they did see a need. But again, did they draft best available player at that spot, or did they go for need? And I think you make the argument that they drafted for need here and not best available, and they probably could have traded back and so gotten them in the second round.
Well, I think that's a great point there too about trading back. I feel like as a fan, you always watch this and you think, "Wow, I'm glad they got that player, but I wish they could have traded back, got a couple extra picks, and still got him." It really does kind of make you wonder what happens in those war rooms and was there a draft available or was there a trade available? Was it a situation of, hey, we called, no one was willing to offer us a trade, so we either take him now or we risk losing him to another team in the next round? So I really kind of do wonder what kind of happens with those situations. It's obviously a conversation we'll never be privy to because we're not in those rooms. But,
right.
So
yeah,
that's a great pick though with him. Yeah, I think he's a great player. You're right. It's just a little bit too early to get him.
And listen,
you have Nolan Smith on the board. You have a need for pass rusher too. You have Nolan Smith. Pairing him with Hutchinson should have been a no-brainer.
I mean, dude, yeah, that, and when you have the 31st worst defense, you pretty much go with any group there and take anyone there and you know what I mean? I don't think they had a reach, but hey, he might be an all pro guy or a Pro Bowl guy, which is great. Yeah. I hope. Again, I'm not knocking his talent. I'm just saying based off grade value, that wasn't good a pick.
Yeah. And that's the great thing about the draft is we're not going to know what any of this stuff means for 2-3 years, and we'll look back and think, wow, that was such a big brain move for them to draft this guy here. Or we'll look back and think, wow, we're so glad they got fired because what a dumb move.
So. It's such a crapshoot, and we're just two guys who sit on our ass and watch football. So see what happens.
Well, we at least have the benefit of being former players. So I mean,
that's true.
Kind of opens us a little bit to some kind of information. I like.
Yes. Yep. You are 100% right there. Emmett, who is your most surprising pick?
Anthony. I'm going to go Anthony Richardson to the Colts at 4. Okay. All the pre-draft hype was for Will Levis. That's all we kept hearing. He can go 1. I mean, what was it? The odds jumped to -4 or -400 that he was going to go 1, 2 overall.
Yeah.
And he just kind of seemed to really fit to me what the Colts have always looked for in a quarterback. A strong, tall, intellectual, big arm quarterback with Southern Fed traits, to come in and fill the need. He seemed more NFL day one ready, and they didn't have an alternative on the roster to start because you can't run Nick Foles out there. We know what he is at this point. It's a backup. You can't run Gardner Minshew out there. Again, we know what he is. He's fun, but he's a backup. So that was kind of my thought is, this is where Will Levis goes. And then from the poll AR-15, maybe we shouldn't call him AR-15 with all the stuff going about, Anthony Richard.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
A couple times.
No.
To go with Anthony Richardson, who you can't start Nick Foles over him. You can't sell out to your fan base. You can't sell Gardner Minshew to your fan base. So you're going to have to probably start on day one. It's going to be ugly. Hopefully he doesn't develop any, bad habits where he just drops back, makes one read, goes not there, takes off.
Yeah.
That it may hinder his development. So that was the most surprising pick to me.
I like that answer. I'm gonna go with Michael Mayer. Am I say that last name right? Tight end from Notre Dame. He was seen as the top tight end in this class, at least before draft night. Ended up being, if I remember correctly, the second tight end taken. Out of the kid from Utah, I think he went the first round. What surprised me about this pick is Michael fell to the second round, and I was like, oh, every mock draft I've seen, he was a top 20, 25 pick, right? Maybe a lot of teams didn't see a need there for him. But the Bills obviously wanted a tight end. They took the kid from Utah. But the Raiders end up snagging him, which I think was a great pick by them because they filled the void that Darren Waller left there. And this guy, he can pretty much do everything, right? I didn't personally watch a whole lot of film about him, but I saw his highlights. He can run, he can catch, he can block. He's been a grown man since his freshman year of college, dude. So that was surprising for me just because he had fell so much. And then the Raiders were like, oh, we just lost Darren Waller. Now we get Michael Mayer. Here we go.
Yeah. I think the most surprising, not necessarily pick to me, but portion of the draft was definitely because I remember Benjamin Albright. I think he covers the Broncos. He's a really, really good insider. He always has the tidbits about everything. Like I remember he had the Trey Lance tidbit before anyone else did. He was expecting there to be more running backs drafted in the first round of receivers because he had gotten the inclination that a lot of the GMs in the NFL weren't really high on this year's wide receiver class, and then he just saw a run of 4 straight receivers. So I think when JSN got taken at 20 to Seattle, I think that may have freaked a couple other teams out, and that's just what started running. Maybe kind of pushed some of these guys down the board more. That some of those receivers maybe should have gone in the second round or potentially the third round. So maybe that's kind of what happened to him.
Yeah, maybe. Emmett, just kind of rolling around here. What is your least surprising pick? What did not shock you whatsoever?
I'm probably going to have to go with Bryce Young to Carolina at 1. He was the consensus number 1 pick all offseason. Carolina needed an absolute answer at quarterback, and he was for sure the safest bet. So when they traded up to him, I know there was a little bit of a conversation about C.J. Stroud because of Young's height and what Frank Wright had previously coached. But that didn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense. I doubt they're making an entire decision strictly based on the guys being a couple inches shorter. So that seemed to be like the no-brainer to me.
Yeah, I mean, people keep calling him the Steph Curry of football, right? He's going to be that guy to step in there, bring that like swagger, and make a lot of stuff happen for the Panthers. My least surprising pick, I had to go with Joey Porter Jr. to the Steelers. I feel like he was linked to the Steelers this entire draft process. And given that his dad played for the Steelers, I just felt like this was like written in the stars. Like it was just like fate. You know what I mean? Like it was going to happen. The Steelers were even getting a lot of phone calls at the 32nd pick to trade back, and they like Joey Porter Jr. so much. They're like, nah, we're not going back. They're kind of scared to like lose him there. I think it'll be great for them. And again, he was linked to them for the entire process. Did not shock me whatsoever that he ended up with the Steelers.
Yeah, I just really want to go back to the surprising part because I forgot I had a couple of bullet points here that I wanted to talk about real quick.
Yeah, sure.
This one being a surprise was Darrell Wright to the Bears. I feel like I didn't hear any hype about him. I didn't hear any talking about him, nothing about, look how great this tackle is from Tennessee. I mean, I watched a lot of Tennessee games this year because they were so good. So when he got announced to the Bears, I was like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
And then the one surprising pick more than that, but maybe even the most frustrating, was Marte Mapu to the New England Patriots at 76. That pick has started to breed a hatred in me towards the Patriots because year in a row where I kind of heard or found a guy that I was like, wow, I really like him. He's a no-name prospect. He's going to go under the radar. Then maybe the Niners can get him in the 5th or 6th round. And this was a guy from Sac State, where I'm from, down the street. And I'm thinking him to the Niners, perfect. 5th round, he can become that safety linebacker convert that we love to do. And for New England to just take him 2 rounds ahead of where he was expected again, undercutting my hopes and dreams. They really, I don't know what I did to piss Bill Belichick off, but I obviously I've done something to wrong this man, and I apologize to Bill Belichick. Can you please stop taking my draft diamonds? Thank you.
Right. Come on, Billy.
I know, like, is my office mic'd up? How is he knowing this shit? Like,
he's just like he's won enough in this world. Can we just let us have some wins? You know what I mean?
And you're gonna take this poor Sacramento State kid who's from Northern California, lives his whole life in this great weather, and you're gonna move him to New England, to Boston,
to Boston.
To Boston. He's gonna freeze his butt off. Come on, Bill, do the right thing. Just trade him to San Francisco. Just future 7th round pick.
I feel like Bill always finds those like hidden treasures too.
God,
like
he's so good at that.
He would draft someone with a fourth round grade can't speak in the first round. That's because he knows more than everyone else.
He does not care. The Chattanooga guard. He was expected to be a 3rd or 4th round pick. I was hoping the 49ers would take him with their first pick, which is in the 3rd round, because then you had to need a guard. And he took him at the end of the 1st round.
Yep.
I was like, he is the ultimate example of I don't give a shit what the value is. I'm taking my guy when I know I'm going to get him. I'm not going to lose him. Yep. So
he does not care.
No, he doesn't want to hear nothing about value.
He does not care at all. Emmett, before we move on to your best value pick, do you have anything else to add about at least most surprising or least surprising picks?
No, I mean. No, I feel like we covered it. I mean, the obvious answer at the number 1 was Bryce Young. It seemed to always be the whole time. The only thing I could say maybe about surprising about it all was maybe how Jalen Carter slipped, but with his, the combine workout, that makes sense. Nolan Smith to the Eagles. I know I've seen a lot of mock drafts about him going number 10. So when he was still available at 30, that just again seemed kind of like a no-brainer to them. Mm-hmm. Probably just take him. So
agreed. So with that being said, if you can think about every single pick in this draft, who do you think had the most value?
The most value. I want to say Gonzalez to New England, but I already used that. So I will instead go with Nolan Smith to the Eagles at 30. He's a great pass rusher. He is a Hassan Reddick clone. Great first step, great burst. He's a speed rusher all the way. And I know Hassan Reddick, it took him a few years to kind of get into that groove of what he should be, because I know initially Arizona drafted him and had him as a linebacker. But he'll be a great understudy for him. He'll be able to take all those little tools and tricks and everything else he's kind of developed over the years. And again, I know he was mocked, like I said, to Philadelphia at 10. So the fact that they were able to still get him 20 picks later at a much lower value, they still have that 5th-year option for him. He's just adding another link in that strong defensive line armor that they have. That just seemed to be the best value pick to me.
I like it. No, I think when he went there and when I ended up getting him, I was like, it's one of those moments. I was like, how is he still on the board? I had completely forgotten about him, and I guess the rest of the teams did too. I was like, how is he still out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's seriously. I feel like that happens you get to the end of the 1st round and some team drafts a guy and you're like, they were still available? How?
Yeah. I kind of already touched on this, so I'm kind of lame. But my best value pick had to be Keely Ringo going to the Eagles in the 4th round. I think it was an absolute steal. He had an early 2nd round grade, and putting him with that Super Bowl defense, like, come on.
Yeah. I feel like you could say that honestly about the entire Colts and Eagles draft. But they all just got great value out of it. They got guys that were projected to go earlier in the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds. So I think hats off to them. I think they both had just great value drafts. So
yeah, they did their thing. Especially Eagles. I think they showed why they're one of the better orgs in the entire league, and it's because they draft well and they also grow and develop players well too.
Yep.
So what's the pick that kind of had the weirdest value to you? Kind of one of those things that, like, when you saw it, you're like, okay, but once you study a little bit more, you're like, it's actually a pretty good pick there.
I took that question a different way. I took it as weirdest value as, why the hell did you draft that guy there?
That is actually fine too. That's actually more perfect.
And my obvious answer as a 49er fan was Jake Moody at 99 to the 49ers.
Yep.
And I remember just being so pissed at the screen thinking, what the hell are they doing? But I saw explanations after. It explained it all away. They knew there was a couple of teams that were looking to take a kicker. They didn't have another pick until I think it was 155. He was for sure going to be gone by then. I think New England actually traded up to take another kicker at 107. So, just one of those examples of trying to beat New England on the clock. So I understand why they did it. I know they needed to do it. I know they needed a kicker. He's the best in the draft, so you got to do it. It doesn't mean it's not the weirdest value. So that for me was a no-brainer weirdest value in the draft.
That is fair. For me, my weirdest value, I might get some hate for this, but Devin Weatherspoon, the quarterback out of Illinois, went to 5 at the Seahawks. I just didn't see him mock that high. I did not see that happening. It's one of those things that I know he's comparable to Jalen Ramsey. When I saw a couple like analysts put that out there, I'm like, no way. After watching the film, he is a dog. I'm actually surprised I don't know too much about him because he's basically in my backyard. I know that he was slotted 1 or 2 based off what mock draft looked at based off cornerback. It was either him or the kid from Oregon as like 1 or 2. But him going at 5, I thought that was very, very high for him. I did not see it happening. I did not see that even close to happening. Once Jalen Carter was available at 5, I thought, oh, he has Seahawks written all over him. He just seemed like a guy who would play for the Seahawks, right? And when it came out with that corner, I was like, oh, okay. That's like it's kind of surprising. You could probably got him like later on, but no, I think he ended up doing well there. Again, no hate to him as like a talent. He's very, very good. I just thought I did not see that happening at all.
I'll give you one to add to your value about that as well. Is I remember they were kind of announcing it on the draft that I think it was Pete Carroll had never drafted that high since he'd been at the Seahawks, and they'd also had taken a cornerback that high, and they broke both traditions by taking him that high. And I will say, and again, I'm a big history person. I believe history doesn't necessarily always repeat itself, but it usually rhymes pretty close. And typically, I feel like the Seahawks have not historically been super great with their first round picks. So this may be one of those ones that falls into that trend. It could be one that surprises us, and he just does amazingly. So Pete Carroll's got a way with words with corners. So we'll see how he develops.
True. I mean, they had Sherman there, and arguably one of the best corners for a while there.
Yep.
Yeah, no.
Brandon Bauer. They also had Maxwell, I think his name was for a while there, number 41 during the Legion of Boom years. So I mean, he's always been good at developing corners. So hopefully that's a great spot for him. Hopefully he develops, even if it's against my 49ers. You never want to, root against a guy. These are real people. These are real kids that are, really trying to live out their dreams. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. We hope the best. I mean, we give these takes for like least favorite pick, weirdest pick, whatever. But at our core, we want these players to do well.
Yeah,
like we're not praying for anyone's downfall.
The big money, for sure.
Yeah.
These are, like I said, real people that really have been busting their butts their whole lives for this. So
they're top 1% of like the 1%. Basically to get drafted in the league, especially first round. It's rare. It's hard. All right, man. Let's go ahead. Let's give our opinions on our favorite squads here, the Bears and the Niners. Before we go through the list of our favorite pick, least favorite pick, whatever, let's go ahead. Let's grade our team's classes. So if you could pick from A+++ to F, what grade did you give the Niners?
I'm going to give them a C+. I think it's one of those things. They didn't have a whole lot of holes to fill. They've been a great drafting team before, thankfully. So, there wasn't a whole lot of, starters that they were necessarily looking for. This draft was more about depth. And I think they really found it there with linebacker. I think they drafted 2 linebackers to help provide some support there. They been needing to find a tight end too. Again, they took 2 guys to provide an opportunity there. They need a kicker, got a kicker. So I think it was more of a depth draft. You were not going to find. There's not a kid. I don't think there's a Kittle in this draft. I don't think there's a Fred Warner in this draft. But there's some guys that could definitely develop and play good supporting roles to those superstars, and that's always critical for a championship team. So
Yes. And to your point, that's why I really love our show. It's just because it's kind of a tale of two different cities, right? You have the Niners, who are a Super Bowl window right now, one of the best orgs in the entire league, and then you have the Bears, who are complete scum right now. So it's kind of cool to
They're not
see.
that bad. Relax. They're not.
They had the first pick for a reason, man.
It could be worse. It could be a 30 in
It
a
could
row
be
first
worse.
picks.
It could be worse. But it's kind of cool to see. Like we can at least talk to it. Like obviously the Niners Super Bowl ready right now. They don't maybe need a lot of those instant starters like how the Bears do. It's nice to be able to be in that spot to draft for like
Yeah.
depth. You know.
Yeah, it really is. It just makes draft night so weird because you're watching it, you watch the draft, and you watch him pick a guy, and you're thinking, is he the next? You're like, no, he's not. He's got Fred
He's just a
Warner in front
guy.
of him. He's got Drake Greenlaw in front of him. He's got, these guys. It's like, all right, so he'll be nice. You'll make
Yeah.
one interception week 7. You're like, I remember that guy.
I remember that guy.
So.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's funny. For the Bears, I think I give them a B plus. I really liked what they did. They addressed a lot of needs. I mean, they drafted like 3D linemen, 3D tackles. I should say. They got some depth piece at linebacker. They draft a future starter at corner and Tyreek Stevenson. And then they drafted a day one starter and Darnell Wright playing right tackle. I would assume he's playing right tackle, keeping Braxton Jones on the left side. Reason is a D plus, or not D plus. Reason is a B plus is because they didn't address the edge at all. So I understand though. Ryan Poles can't address everything in one swoop. He said that countless times. So I shouldn't expect it, but it would have been nice to get something there. Looks like they have to go towards free agency now and maybe sign a vet to a 1 or 2 year deal, which again, it's not worse. It's not bad, right? But the Bears had one of the worst pass rushing D lines last year, so it would have been nice to see something on that edge. But I get it. Maybe he's more taking the philosophy of building inside out regarding the D line there. But I think overall it was a solid draft for them. They got two starters and a couple of depth pieces there. So
yeah, and there's a couple of free agency guys that are still available. I think Yannick Ngakwe is still available. He can definitely contribute. And you got to remember with a team like the Bears, there's levels to the progress. You go from here, you're shooting to be a 500 team. So if you can get to there, then the goal of the next season is playoffs. So, I think you guys definitely set yourself up to be onto that next trajectory of being a 500 team, getting out of the bottom dweller, getting out of the number 1 overall pick.
Yep. Yep. The only reason why I hope only way I hope they get top 5 pick is if that Panthers pick turned into a top 5 pick. You know what I mean? But I'm right there with you. I mean, I know I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but to your point, I don't see any reason why they can't win at least 8 or 9 games next year. Based off the roster, I think Polis did a great job considering this is year 2 of the rebuild, and he said it's a 3-year plan. So see what happens. All right, man. Let's go through the same kind of slot of picks here. For the Niners, who was your favorite pick?
My favorite pick was their first pick, Jair Brown. I think he is a fantastic player. He fills a need that we are going to have eventually. We have Tashawn Gibson, who's starting as our free safety. He's a little bit older. I know he was contemplating retirement after this year. He was convinced to come back for 1 more year. So I think that gives Jair Brown a season to develop and learn from him, pick his brain as much as he can. He had 6 picks last year at Penn State, so he's obviously a little bit of a ball hawk to him. He's got good hands. I know he's got great acceleration. He can close on a ball pretty well. Not the fastest guy in the world, but if he can learn how to anticipate and read routes, I think that he'll be able to get his hands on some balls, hopefully for us. Mm-hmm. He's a high energy player, so I think he fits in with the team well. Even if you don't follow the team, you kind of know Fred Warner is a high energy guy. George Kittle's a high energy guy. People who do closely follow know Debo and Brandon and all those other guys. They come with energy in the locker room every day, and I think he just fits right into that so perfectly. So, to me, I think that was my favorite pick. And also, he's great at blitzing. So that closing speed he has, that closing acceleration he has, will definitely help with blitzing. And I know with the new defensive coordinator, Steve Wilkes, He loves to blitz. According to The Athletic, he blitzed about 33.5% of dropbacks last season when he was the defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. So
Love that. And he's out of Penn State, right?
he's out of Penn State. Yep.
Jaquan Brisker for the past month has been saying that he is the top safety in that class. It's cool to see. I know obviously he played with film, but also watching film, I think you can make the argument that he was at least one of the best safeties in that class. So I think that's a great pick by the Niners. And to the point, it's kind of like that phrase, the rich gets richer. Mm-hmm. So now they have another stud back there in that secondary, and he's going to do great things for them. Keeping with the same theme of the secondary, this is kind of I wanted to go Darnell Wright, but I feel like I'm going to talk about him a lot because I think he was a great pick. But talking about my favorite pick, I really like Tyreek Stevenson. He's going to be a day one starter, I believe, opposite of Jalen Johnson on the outside. He's a big guy. He's not afraid to hit. I was watching his highlights. He lays that boom, you know what I mean? Like, he'll come in there. I think he'll be an instant tone setter. He's hungry. And with Jalen Johnson, now him, and then also Kyler Gordon, I think the cornerback room is now pretty solid.
I like it. I agree. I think he's a really solid pick. I think coming out of Bama, he helps out a lot. And I see everything he says is perfect. He rounds out that cornerback room well for you guys, and I know it's a position of need, an area for you guys to grow, especially on that defensive side.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be great for the Bears there, and I don't know. See what happens. Yeah. So let's look at the other spectrum. Emmett, who is your least favorite pick by the famous San Francisco 49ers?
Got a rant set up here, so let's dedicate.
Here we go. Buckle in here. Woo. All right, here we go.
So I know initially I was angry about Jake Mooney, but again, it made sense to me. You know, I didn't like it getting at 99, but you know you had to. The one I cannot wrap my head around is Cameron Latou out of Alabama at pick 101. He was a top 20 tight end pick, but he wasn't number 20. He was probably about 19. I understand the need for a tight end too. I really do. I don't think the need was that strong that you should have taken over some of the talent that was available. I don't like the selection at all here. He is athletically, he's average. He's not blowing you away with speed. He's not out bouncing people. You know, so then you kind of, as a fan or as a, maybe a scout, you go to, okay, well, maybe he's a good blocker. Maybe he blocks and that sets up Kittle for some more routes. Nope. He was according to PFF, he received a 50 blocking grade. So not a strong blocker. I did see, I think it was on NFL.com, that he's a little bit better as a movement blocker. So like kind of like getting onto the edges, that might help with some screens. But again, though, what really bothers me the most about that pick is what other talent was available. You had a lot of right tackles. Nick, I'm going to butcher some of these names, and I apologize. Nick Saldiveri, Blake Freeland, and DeJuan Jones, all guys that were projected to be first, second, or third round picks, all available. And, I understand that the 49ers may feel comfortable with Colton McKivitz, who they drafted a few years ago out of West Virginia in the 5th round, stepping in and taking over for Mike McGlinchey, who just left for the Broncos. But you know what? And again, maybe this is who I am as a cautious person. I would like some insulation. I would like to make sure that we get 3 or 4 games into the year and we haven't seen Colt McKivitz give up 7 or 8 sacks and go, okay, well, who do we turn to? He's not working out. Oh, we have no option. Right. So, I would have liked to have seen something there. And I know I can understand. I've seen it from a couple of the bigger podcasts and content creator people who follow the 49ers have mentioned that, well, by the time they kind of picked, there really wasn't a whole lot of talent left available, guys that could really make the roster anyway. But I'm like, there was in the 3rd round. That's right.
It's still kind of early.
It's still early.
Yeah.
The need for a second tight end wasn't that strong. And if it was, and you're going to take a second, use that pick on a second tight end, I wouldn't take a guy that Lance Zierlein of NFL Network is described as less dynamic than expected after the catch. I mean, he had a 5th round grade on him. You guys took him in the 3rd. We need guys that are big after the catch run. Our offense is great on getting guys open, get the ball in their hands, and let them cause havoc. The George Kittles, the Debos, the Brandons, the McCaffreys. So to draft a guy that supposedly isn't great with the ball in his hand after he gets it, and I think I can't remember off the top of my head. I think he was averaging like 1.06 yards after the catch. I mean, that just doesn't fit what you do. It kind of feels like one of those times where they drafted based on need versus value. I will give it this little caveat as well. I know he did go to George Kittle's tight end U school, so he did get to work with George Kittle a little bit. I think he was one of 3 college kids they were saying that was able to attend. So they probably did get a little bit of additional insight into him a little bit before they got to meet with him. And so maybe they feel he's a great locker room fit. Maybe they feel like develop into what he needs to be. But just with what else was available, and I believe the way you were talking about, the Texans drafted the defensive tackle out of Northwestern.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was still available as well. That they could have taken and maybe could have added some value there to another strong point for them on the defensive line. So for me, that's why I did not like the pick at all. Again, I assume great kid. I assume a guy that we want to, succeed and do well. Obviously, it benefits me as a fan for him to do well. It benefits him to do well. I really, really do want him to do well because, again, he's a real person. But I can't wrap my head around the pick.
Yeah, I can't even make the case that they kind of drafted him for the run support piece because his run support grade is so low.
Like, yeah, I think he had one of the lowest, and PFF gave him a 60.9 grade last year in the season overall. So I mean, if they got him in the 5th round, maybe we're having a different conversation. Maybe it's like, okay, you got him in the 5th round, who cares? If he doesn't pan out, he doesn't pan out. But to use your 3rd round pick on him, and then immediately after the draft ended that night on day 2, teams are trading up to take the right tackle prospects that the 49ers passed on.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I definitely hear you on that one. My least favorite pick, nothing really do with talent per se, and I like the Bears draft class. I gave him a B+. There's no pick I really hate, but looking at the data, this pick was definitely a reach. Now it was Gervon Dexter, senior out of Florida. The Bears took him about 24 picks before he was expected to get drafted. So it kind of one of those things they could have traded back and gotten him, but you never know. Like maybe they feared some teams who needed a D tackle a little bit after them, they just took him. And again, nothing against him. I think he's a great talent, but one of the things I've read about him is that his production is kind of hot and cold. Like maybe sometimes I read his effort's not there. But I enjoy the fact that he kind of can be like interior hybrid. He can play the 1 tech and also the 3. Just from what I had read. But based on the data that they drafted him a little bit too soon based off his expected value, and then also kind of what I've heard about his hot and cold effort. That's the reason why he is my least favorite pick from my Chicago Bears.
I can't blame you on that. And attitude's one of those things you can't teach. You have it or you don't. So work ethic, not attitude. But
Yep. All right, man. Going into more positive note here. Who do you think is most likely to succeed?
Most likely to succeed. I'm gonna have to go with Robert Beal Jr. out of Georgia. I think that I'm in the 5th round. Highly explosive athlete. I think he ran a 1.62, 10-yard split. He had a 4.48 40-yard dash overall. So just a defensive end that has elite speed. Chris Kotrick, I believe his name is. I never can learn the last name of some of these coaches.
It's tough.
Yeah, I know. I used to know him as a defensive end named Chris, who's amazing. I mean, the dude since he's been with us has developed so much great talent on the defensive line. He is definitely the best in the business, and so hopefully, I believe he can get his hands on him, and he can develop into being the D4 that could stay healthy. So that's guy I think is probably set up most likely to succeed. There's a need there. We do need a pass rushing defensive end opposite Nick Bosa. Try to take some of that attention away from him. He'll get a lot of one-on-one matchups because we do have Eric Armstead on the inside. We have Javon Hargrave on the inside, and we have Nick Bosa on the end. Especially if you bring a blitz with that, and it's ones all across the board. I mean, he should eat. I mean, especially in the first year, I wouldn't be surprised if he puts up 4 to 7 sacks probably for us.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that, and you can never go wrong with guessing someone from Georgia that's doing well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, I would have to go with Darnell Wright. He's a day 1 starter, right? and barring any injuries or health-related setbacks, he's going to be on the field on day one. And it's kind of funny what you said earlier about him. Like, I didn't see too much Bears linkage to him during the whole pre-draft process. I actually didn't know too much about him. I know that you and I were like texting. I was like, man, I feel dumb. I didn't do my research. I don't know who this guy is. And you said something along the lines like, well, maybe it's kind of on purpose because a lot of teams were being hush about him because maybe they wanted him and kind of talked about a lot of the other tackles kind of improve their stock, right? So
Yeah, sometimes the best smoke screen is no smoke at all. You just don't talk about the guy.
you just don't talk about him. And I can see why, man. He's 6'6" or close to 6'6". I think he's like 6'5.5", something like that. 330. He can move. I know when he got drafted, they were showing like his little like highlights, you know what I mean? At the combine, man, he was running really, really well. He had a really great RAS score. I think it was like upper nines. So he is a freak athlete. Well, I can't say freak based off what Mel Kiper Jr. said. He said that I thought so, but they were saying that he's not as great as of an overall athlete as Paris Johnson Jr. is. So take that for what you will. But he's a day one starter, and obviously he's going to be on the field the most. So I think he has a great chance of being great. And then going to a topic again, it's more of a downer. But what pick do you think by the Niners is most likely to not pan out?
So for any 49er fans that do watch this, please don't hate me. Please don't kill me for this. Jake Moody. I know I just said I get why they had to take him. I don't like the value, but I get why they had to take him, and it makes sense to me. It's honestly, it's nothing against him at all. It really, really, really isn't. Again, he was the best kicker in the draft. So if you need that, you take it when you need to. The only reason I think he is the most likely to bust is strictly off of history. I already said before, I'm a big history guy. And history usually suggests that when kickers are taken high, they typically just don't pan out. I mean, I looked at the other day, I think it was like since 2011, all the kickers that have been drafted fourth round or earlier, I mean, you couldn't recognize a name on the list. So, I mean, the most obvious glaring situation this happened was in 2016 with Robert Aguayo when he was drafted by Tampa Bay in the second round and got the yips immediately. Unfortunately for him, his career never panned out. He bounced around the league a couple of times, and I think he's out of it now. Mm-hmm. So that's why, for me personally, I think it's Jake Moody. Again, I hope it's not. I know he's got talents. I will also put out there that he was a 76.4% kicker from the 40 to 49 range and 40% kicker from beyond 50, but I think he only had 10 attempts from beyond 50 in his whole college career. Mm-hmm. So, do with that information as you will. All that goes out the window when you're on the NFL field and you got, 80,000 fans screaming at you. So my hope is that he works out. We need a kicker, and he was the best available. But just history suggesting it might not work out.
Yeah. I think the guy you mentioned, too, the one that was drafted last pretty high, he was out of Georgia, right? Are we thinking about the same guy?
I think he's out of Florida State.
Florida State. I picture some guy with, like, goggles. Like, that's the only thing I remember him.
Robert Blankenship. He's on the Colts, I think.
I think he's still doing well, right? He's doing pretty well, right? Was it he drafted or no? I thought he was drafted high, but I could be just losing my mind.
I think he's drafted. But I mean, if you look at the best kickers, I mean, you look at oh my gosh, who's the best kicker in the league right now from Baltimore? Justin Tucker. I believe he was in late round. I mean, special talent. Robert Blankenship, Younghoe Koo from Atlanta. I mean, it's all these guys that just appear out of nowhere and all of a sudden just take the league by storm. So, and again, that doesn't mean that being drafted high is going to set this guy up for failure. It just means that historically speaking, typically it doesn't pan out. So,
yeah.
We'll see how it works for him. Obviously, I hope it does work out for him. But if there was a guy that was more than likely to bust, I mean, you have to put him at the top of the list.
Dude, I just did a quick search. I totally missed this, but that Rodrigo Blankenship guy, I guess I never realized it, but he was waived after the first week last season.
Really?
Yeah, he missed a game-winning kick against the Texans when they tied. I had no clue. I thought he was still hitting dingers. You know what I mean? And so getting game winners, and yeah, he's waived right now.
That's one of the most unfortunate things about being a kicker is because there is going to be a moment where you are the most important person on the field, and then the other 99% of the time, no one even knows if you're on the team anymore. So
He's
I mean,
out
it's
after 3 years. He's out.
wow.
Um,
That's yeah, man. No, you just don't
but
hear kicker news. That's why we need Pat McAfee. We need more Pat McAfees in our life to
we
tell us
need
about kicker,
more Pat
punter, and long
McAfee.
sniper news.
Yeah, and I was totally wrong. He wasn't even drafted either. So I was trying to find a data point that kind of go inside what you're talking about. But
Well, if you look up the last kickers taken, I think it's fourth round or better. I think there's one guy on the list that had an okay career, but it didn't last very long. But then everyone else, you're like, who the hell is this guy?
yeah, no, I definitely believe it because I feel as though the success rate overall of kickers is so low, right?
You know,
Like,
and I think you really contribute it. And I kind of want to talk about it a little bit earlier, but I think now might be a great time to bring it up. I think there are just certain positions where the scouting just hasn't caught up. I mean, you look at kickers, we don't know what makes a good kicker and what doesn't. You never hear, you're not going to watch Rich Eisen talking on the draft and say, oh, well, if you look at the velocity at which he's able to swing his foot, the angle, he's very good at setting himself up and adjusting for wind factor. Like, you're not going to hear that.
true.
You know, and I think it's kind of like running backs. You sit here and the benchmark for running back is still a 1,000-yard season. If you do the math, they play 17 games now. 1,000-yard season means you got 59 yards a game. That's not blowing anybody away. If you heard your running back had 6 fantasy points, that's not mind-boggling numbers.
True.
And even safety, I feel like all the money for high school kids has gone to corner or receiver or whatever else. So most of those kids that would be safeties play those positions.
Yep.
I think it's just a matter of, I think the scouting really just hasn't caught up to those positions. I think nowadays teams scout quarterback so well. They scout receiver so well, edge rusher really, really well, and tackle really, really well. And so I just think that it's one of those positions where it's kind of been valued as, well, it doesn't help to the pass game, so we don't really need to worry about that right now. So
Well, if you think about the overall trend of the league, I mean, special teams has been seen less and less important almost every single year, right? With they always vote, not always, but last year they voted on if they want to get rid of like what was like punt or kickoff or something like
yes,
along those
kickoff teams
lines.
just take the ball at the 25 or something like that.
Yeah, like they're not even placing any like emphasis on it right now. Well, they are, but like it wasn't ruled in favor, right? But the fact that it was put out there is like, oh,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
weird.
you know what they say, when the league zigs, you got to zag. I mean, look at the 49ers. A lot of their success since Kyle Shanahan's been here from 2017, 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
I know 2017, 2018 wasn't the most successful years, but 2019 and 2020 when they made it to the Super Bowl, 2019 made it to the Super Bowl. Their whole offense was predicated on the run game. They led the league in rushing. They had a great, strong run game. Their quarterback wasn't blowing people away. Their receiving weapons weren't blowing people away. And they're able to make it to the Super Bowl because defenses had adjusted and they had gone with lighter linebackers, heavy emphasis on corner, and you had to go with lighter D linemen because those big hog molly D linemen, the Warren Sapps of the world, just weren't getting to the quarterback, and you had to replace those guys with these now 275-pound defensive tackles. So when the 49ers came in with these big monstrous guards, the Lincoln Thompsons and the Trent Williams and Joe Staley's before him, that were just manhandling these guys and moving them out of the way, the holes were big enough for running backs to pick up 5-6 yards of carry. So I think we're kind of starting to see now that adjustment back the other way. I think teams are starting to really put more of an emphasis on the run game because there's been such a heavy emphasis on the pass game. So now I think you'll start seeing some teams start to zig back the other way.
Yeah,
like
no, it's true.
So
it's true. I mean, you see a team out there, a defensive nickel and dime all game. Why not run?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're gonna give me six DBs, I'm gonna run it down your throat until you change. Why would I not? If I could pick up 6-7 yards of carry, absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, give me Debo off the edge every time. You have 6 DBs, and I have George Kittle, I have Trent Williams, and I have Aaron Banks now. That's what 1,000 pounds of weight running at your what do they call it? You know what they call them in practice, the little butts. Running at your little butts, and I got Debo at 215 there. I mean, it's you're giving me first downs, and I don't have to run the risk of an interception. Why would I not?
Yeah. And 49ers, even the Bears, that's one thing we have in common, even though the Bears suck, is they love to run the ball. You know what I mean? Smash them out, old school football, man. going back on here, my pick for most likely to not pan it out. I kind of sound like hypocritical here, but it has to be Darnell Wright. I was thinking
Just like
Tyreek
Darnell
Stevenson.
Wright the way down. Was it just
Yeah,
Darnell Wright?
basically.
The Bears
Um,
made one pick. It was Darnell Wright. Nothing else matters.
no, it's just because he's the only one besides Stevenson, I would think, and Rashawn Johnson. I think he will eventually start too. But if you think on the coin of like who's gonna have the biggest impact, the other side of that coin is who is most likely to fail, and it's probably the player who's in that spot that have so much impact.
Yeah.
And again, like I don't want him to, but it's kind of like one of those like the phrase like the bigger you are, the harder you fall, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
think it's what first round picks have a 40% fail rate or 40,
mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, 40% success rate. So I mean, it's like it's just if you're looking at it statistically, you're not sitting here thinking, oh, I want this guy. But statistically speaking, 60% of these guys are going to fail. You know,
Exactly. I want him to. I want him back there. I want him to protect Justin Fields for the next 10 years, right? But we have a guy who's going to be out there the most, and against Stevenson would be out there a lot too, and I guess he could also fail as well. I just think that Darnell Wright, seeing as though he is connected to Justin Fields in regards to him being on that O line, dude, there's going to be so many eyeballs on him, man. And even if he's not great, let's say he's average, people will see that as a bust. That
what
they just will. The Chicago fan base is sometimes super toxic, bro. Like they'll see it as a wasted pick. This is and that. So just
I'm curious,
seeing
what's
as
your opinion on the fact that they didn't take a skill position player high? I don't
yeah,
think we talked about that at all.
no, they did not. And that's I think it's kind of because they got DJ Moore before the draft, so maybe they didn't feel as though they needed to. And I'll talk about this later on, but I really like that Tyler Scott pick, the wide receiver from Cincy.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I was really surprised about. But actually, I was more okay with that because we need to protect Fields. Like we need to see this whole season should be what Fields can be,
Yeah,
and he needs to be able to not run for his life every single game. We have to see what he can be as a pocket passer. So
yeah.
I actually kind of like that pick. So Emmett, with that being said, who was the best value pick
The
in your
best
opinion?
value pick. Oh, my favorite value pick was Ronnie Ball out of Michigan in the 6th round.
There we go.
Uh, I'm sorry, we have him in the 7th round. I think it was one of our last picks.
Mm-hmm.
He had a 6th round grade on him according to NFL.com, and the Niners were able to give him the 7th round. He was more quick than fast, so he's not gonna blow by you, but he's real shifty. He gets in and out of his breaks very well. He's got strong hands. He's a great route runner. He has a little bit of a knack for making a big play. Now again, that's at Michigan. At the NFL, does that translate? Maybe not, but I think he could definitely be a replacement for Jawan Jennings, who we right now have. Jawan's going into his 4th year, so it's his walk year. He's been solid for us. He's been our 3rd down, move the chains moneymaker. Yeah, and I think he's due for a contract. I think he's earned a contract. I just think unfortunately he's going to get it with another team. We have too many guys to pay, and I think it's a great opportunity for Ronnie Ball to step up. A guy that can get open on 3rd down. We can expect him, strong hands to make a play, move the chains, and keep it going. You can't always rely on Debo. You can't always rely on Brandon. You can't always rely on Kittle or Chris McCaffrey. So you need that 3rd down guys, 3rd down specialist. So I think if we can find another one in the 7th round, that's just amazing value again.
Yeah, I was actually while you said that, I was researching him, and being a Iowa State fan, he absolutely torched us last year. He had two long touchdowns.
You should be very familiar with him.
Now, granted, he was like wide open, so it's whatever. But I guess he did be wide open for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I think that is a solid pick by the Niners. He has experience, bro. 47 total college games played.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna be a nice. I don't know what he would. What would that be? Wide receiver 4 for you all?
He would actually, if Jawan Jennings left after this year, he would step up and be wide receiver 3 for us.
Maybe 3.
I know we have Danny Gray, who we drafted last year, but he's a speedster. I don't really see him taking over that role. Jawan Jennings is our nitty gritty screen block in 3rd and 10, get it to him. He's 6'5" kind of guy. So Yeah, I think Ronnie Bell fits perfectly right into that role. I think he comes in at what 6'1".
Something like that. 6'1", like 200-ish, right?
Yeah. So
Looking at stats, 62 catches, almost 900 yards with 4 touchdowns last year.
yeah.
So no, I think that is a solid value pick there, and you can never have too many weapons, right?
Nope. Never can.
Never. And going with the same line of topic, Tyler Scott, I think that he's going to be great. I actually have an oddball idea. It wasn't my own. I read it on Twitter, but I'll get to that in a second. But they picked Tyler Scott 60 picks after he was expected to get drafted. So it's almost 2 full rounds. They got him in the fourth. He was expected to go in like the second. Great value. He's more of a slot receiver, smaller guy, like 5'10". I think I saw like a buck 70, 80 maybe even less of that, maybe like a buck 60. I think he ran like a 4.4. Really good athletes. And my oddball idea that I read on Twitter actually made sense is that he might replace Darnell Mooney if Darnell Mooney wants too much money and a contract does not get done because this is last year of his rookie deal. So, so maybe Poles did that.
Text message?
What's that?
You didn't read that on a text message? You read that on Twitter?
Did you send that to me?
Yeah, I texted you that. I was like, oh, there goes Darnell Mooney.
Oh, I didn't know that. I read Greg Braggs Jr. He's a big content creator here in the Chicago fan base. He also said that. So hey, great minds, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I texted you. I remember you told me that. I was like, oh, it seems like if he fits into the mold of the Darnell Mooney, maybe it's a matter of, Mooney's got to move on and get paid. But I feel like that's kind of a little bit, if you think about it a little bit more, I think it's a little bit of an odd situation for you guys because you do have a lot of salary cap available, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he probably shouldn't be commanding any more than the 7-10 million range. But that's kind of a lot to pay for a slot, I guess. So,
yeah.
And I guess overall, it kind of makes sense, but.
He kind of had injury problems last year as well. Yeah. But sorry, man, I totally forgot that you had said that.
You're saying this, I'm like, didn't I say that?
that is funny. But yeah, Greg Braggs Jr. also said that. He also made a point. I'm looking at his tweet here as well that the Bears might have done that too at running back with drafting Roschon Johnson to maybe potentially replace Khalil Herbert for like the same reason. I just sent that to you so you know that I'm not trying to snub you.
What time did I text you that? What time did they say it? Because
that's actually a good point.
Maybe I need to reach out to Greg and see if he can cite his sources.
Yeah, right. It's like, hey, we need you to give us props here on the Rational Football League show.
Are people just from the NFL just listen to me when I'm saying things to myself and they're just taking my ideas? Is that what's happening here?
Pretty much. No, it's funny. That's funny. But yeah, I just looking at the data, going off expected value and when he went, I think it's good. And if he does someday replace Darnell Mooney, this is a big brain move by Ryan Poles. I just think that one guy leaves, another guy comes in, boom.
Right.
So with that being said, who is the worst value for you?
Thinking about Jake Moody.
Yeah.
Again, I get why I had to do it. I know we had to do it. I think it was the worst value in the entire draft. I don't know why teams were seeming to value kickers so high in this draft. I mean, it was obviously the right move. The Patriots literally traded up, I think it was from 116 to 107 to draft a kicker right after this. So, I mean, it was obviously the right move to do. I don't know why kicker was valued so high in this draft. Just the way the draft board shook out. But, again, I like him. I really, really would have liked him in the fifth. Gotta do what you got to do. He's on the team. He's going to help us out. And hopefully, help us win some games. So, but definitely the worst value.
It's always hard to justify taking a kicker in the third round. But when he's kicking game-winning playoff games for you all,
right,
it's more than worth it, right?
The only thing worse would be a first-round long snapper.
True. Punter almost. As punter is it's up there.
If you take a first-round long snapper, you're fired. You don't even get to make the rest of the picks of the draft. The owner comes in and fires you immediately.
You are instantly fired. It's not even coming in because the owner's like sitting usually right next to him. It's more like they look over. It's like, yeah, bro, you're out. Like,
just go get your desk right now. You can go home. You're good. You don't need to come back.
go tell Steve to fill in for you because you're.
Oh my god! And could you imagine being that guy that got drafted in the first round as a long snapper? Like you probably didn't even watch the draft. You're like, oh, I'm a draft.
He's probably out getting drunk, bro. Like at the bar, shotgun and beers.
You're hanging out with your girlfriend, doing also get a call. You've been drafted in the first round. You're like, what?
Or you're like, who is this?
The most hated man by your fan base because of something you had nothing to do with. That would be so shitty.
That'd be so damn.
You got to go to this draft party where you know everyone hates that you're there, but you got to act like, oh yeah.
I think that we gotta start like a TV show around this. Like, I think we need.
That would be such. I don't know if it can last seasons, but that'd be a great movie premise.
Just give us one. Drafted. Huh? Give us one shot, okay? And it can be like a Blue Mountain State theme movie / show, and it's just about a guy, a long snapper, just parties his ass off, gets drafted in the first round. That would be so damn funny.
Oh my god.
So damn funny.
You gotta get the savior. Let's make it worse. Number 1 overall pick. You gotta get the savior of the franchise treatment.
No, bro.
You can even justify it even easier. Say it's like Jake Moody's your name, but Jake Foodie was like the number 1 overall quarterback, and they just wrote the wrong letter.
Yeah, that would be so funny.
That would.
And then Raj was like, "Sorry, no take backs."
Yeah, hey, whatever you write on that card, that's official. That's final.
Yeah.
I think there was an example of that. Oh my god, when did it happen? It happened a long time ago. It might have been, I think it was with the Vikings and the Eagles, where they actually wrote the wrong name, or from the wrong school or something like that. And there was another dude, so they actually got the wrong player. They got the wrong.
He shows up to whatever, steps off the plane. They go off and they greet him like, wait, you're not. Who is this? You're like, you just drafted me. You're like, we did not want you, bro.
No. We didn't want you. We want the other one. Where's the other one?
Where's the other one? No, that's funny.
I'm gonna try to look at that. We keep talking. I'm gonna try to find that out.
Yes, please. While you search that, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna give you my worst value. I already said this, but Javon Dexter Sr. I mean, he don't get me wrong. I hope he's a baller. I hope he's a dog. Right now, he'd probably be more of a rotational piece, which is fine. But again, I think we overreached for him. But again, I hope he's a dog. Moving on here. I know we're kind of long on time. Emmett, my question for you is, what would you have liked to see your team do differently?
Yeah, I'll keep this short and sweet because we kind of already discussed it a little bit. I would have liked them to see them to draft a right tackle. I mean, again, not necessarily to uproot Colt McKivitz. If that's who they believe is the best player to be at right tackle right now, I have to put my faith in the front office. They've been right a lot. That's why there's other jobs. That's why we've been to 3 straight NFC Championship games, or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I'll put my faith in them. But I just really would have liked to see some insulation, some support, just in case it doesn't go right. But it is what it is. They obviously are smarter than me about this. They get paid a lot more than I do to do this. So, I have to put my faith in them. But I really would have liked to see that.
Yeah. For the Bears, I wish the Bears would have actually taken that long snapper in the first round. I think it probably would have been a plan. I'm kidding, people. Don't go out there and hate me. Just kidding. I kind of talked about this too, but they didn't address the edge at all, which is pretty dire, right? Edge is one of the most valued spots out there on that defense. And again, last year, Jaquan Brisker was leading our team in sacks. He had 2. It's a very, very bad right now. I know they got DeMarcus Walker in free agency. I hope he does well. He came over from the Titans, but we still need that premier edge rusher. We just need it. I don't think there's many teams out there who made a deep run who does not have a top 10 edge rusher. Every team that goes far has one. And that's what Poles needs next. I think we kind of touched on this too, but who was most likely to be a day one starter for the Niners?
Again, kind of what we discussed a little bit is this draft is going to be filled with a lot of guys that are just mostly depth pieces. And again, nothing wrong with that. It's just where the 49ers are at in this position. You're not really shooting for the George Kittles right now. You need those guys to back up George Kittle in case he gets hurt. So my projection for a day one starter was definitely going to be D Winters. I've already seen the fan base get pretty excited about him. He's a fast, shoot the gap linebacker out of TCU. We got him in the 6th round, I believe. He was a 6th round pick. I watched him in a couple of games this year because TCU is really good and they're a fun team to watch. He's an exciting linebacker. He brings the thud. He is going to knock you on your butt. I think he'll be a day one starter on special teams.
Good old kickoff.
he will be a stud on kickoff. But I mean, and it's a little funny, but the reality is we have Fred Warner, we have Dre Greenlaw, there's Grant McCray Ball, I believe, who they drafted last year, they've already been really excited about to step into that linebacker 3 role. But even at that, I don't think you consider linebacker 3 as a starter. So I just don't really think there's any guys. I guess you could probably go with Jake Moody, but I feel like I kind of talked about him enough, so I thought I'd move on to somebody else.
That's fair.
Yeah, but D Winters, I can see him being an absolute star on special teams, which is not a bad thing. When Talanoa Hufanga was drafted a couple years ago in the 5th round, his rookie goal, he even said in interviews, my goal is to make the Pro Bowl as a rookie on special teams. So I think especially as a rookie, when you got great talent to learn behind, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think he'll absolutely be. And our special teams coverage has been, before this past season, atrocious. This last season, it was okay. I think it was ranked 21st or something like that. So we need the help on it anyway. He's young, cheap talent that can really help out. So I think him being a special team starter day one would be a good fit for him. I think it helps us out, but it's honestly probably the safe pick. So.
Yeah, that's fair. The Bears, I have a couple people, obviously, I already touched on them, who I think will be day one starters. Obviously, Darnell Wright, Tyreek Stevenson are going to step in there and be a day one starter. I do have a hot take, though, that's kind of get away from the same answers that I've been saying. I think Roschon Johnson out of Texas, the running back, can make a move to be a day one starter. The running back room is pretty competitive right now. We have Khalil Herbert, who's been with the team the past few seasons. And then they just signed Deontay Foreman in free agency from the Panthers to a 1-year, $3 million deal. So he was pretty good last year, too. I think he had just shy of 1,000 yards rushing.
Solid.
Yeah, he's solid. He's solid. But that's kind of my hot take. As a day one starter, I think Johnson could step in and at least come compete for the starting role. He's 6'1", 220, 230, running like a 4.5. And I think he can come in and just be a dog.
Yeah, well, it's not unheard of, especially at the running back position, for guys to be able to leapfrog. I mean, 49ers are prime catalysts for that. It feels like every year we have a new starting running back. Hopefully not this year with Christian McCaffrey, but it's always some undrafted free agent or 6th, 7th round pick like Elijah Mitchell that comes in and all of a sudden preseason game 4, you're like, oh my God, this guy's a starter. How the hell did that happen? So
Yep. I think he can come in. He's gonna be a dog. All right, Emin. It was great talking about our squads and the overall draft. Now let's going on to this next segment where we kind of give our quote unquote hot takes. Who are 5 players you can see that will do well a year from now?
Well, this will get some fan bases to love us and hate us that aren't the Bears and 49ers. My 5 players are going to be Hendon Hooker from Detroit, Nick Herberg from Pittsburgh, Bijan Robinson from Atlanta, Christian Gonzalez from New England, and Rashae Rice from Kansas City. Just quick little explanation why. Hendon Hooker, honestly, to me personally, going to the draft, he was my number 2 quarterback. I like C.J. Stroud. The consistency was an issue for me. And watching Hendon Hooker all throughout the year at Tennessee, he was a absolute dog. He was lighting on fire, especially against that Alabama. If you don't believe me that he's the number 2 quarterback in this draft, go back and watch Alabama and watch him toast that defense. Nick Herberg is a TJ Watt mini clone. He's about, I think, 20 or 30 pounds lighter than TJ Watt. But if you go back and watch any of the Wisconsin games this year, he seemed like the only NFL talent on the field. He was absolutely causing havoc on every other play. By far the best player on that defense, and they had a stout defense. I think they had a top 10 defense in the country last year. So pairing him with TJ Watt will be fun to watch for years to come. BJ Robinson is an absolute superstar, best player on the field at Texas at times. He can get whenever he wants. He looked like an NFL player that just decided to spend one more year in college. So I don't see any reason that's going to stop him at Atlanta, especially when you have a young quarterback in Desmond Ritter that needs a little bit of run support. I think he'll get into that running back room, and I know they have some absolute studs there. I think he gets in there and just takes the room over. Christian Gonzalez, New England, Bill Belichick. What else do I need to say? He's going to be a star more than likely. And Rashee Rice from Kansas City. I know they just lost a couple guys. I believe Nicole Hardman was his name.
Mm-hmm.
Juju Smith is no longer there. That opens up a lot of targets. I think he's going to have a little bit of success. If he went for about maybe 30, 40 catches for 400 to 500 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns, I think that's a solid rookie year on a team that needs some targets to be eaten. And you're playing with Patrick Mahomes. What can go wrong? So,
love that. Before I give my 5, I think it makes sense to do rapid fire 2 for the other side of the coin. And I want you to give me 5 players who you think are going to be complete busts.
Complete bust. Wow. Throw me under the freaking bus. Why don't you?
Throwing you right there in the fire.
These I'm going to give you 4. I'm going to give you 4 because I didn't have the heart in me to find 5. These 4 guys I apparently hate with all my passion. I'm going to go with Jalen Carter for Philadelphia. Obvious. I mean, if you look at the workout he did for the NFL teams, he came in. I mean, when he was in season, he looked skinny in pads. He came in, he had a beer gut. He didn't have any muscle definition. He couldn't even finish the workout. That concerns me. Work ethic is something you either have or you don't. Hopefully insulated with that Georgia Bulldog defense in Philadelphia, able to keep it, find the right mentality and figure it out. Historically speaking, it just doesn't usually pan out that way. Mm-hmm. Anthony Richardson for Indianapolis, biggest boomer bust. I'm sorry. I hate to be the one to tell you guys this. You don't find more accuracy in the NFL, especially when you're a redshirt sophomore at Florida. You played 13 games. We have plenty of evidence over the years to suggest that when you don't play that many games in college, it usually doesn't translate all that well. Guys don't find more accuracy. I think he will have to rely heavily on his athletic ability this year. Again, he is an athletic freak, but he leans a lot more to bust to me. I can see that happen out much more. I can see him becoming the next superstar. Quentin Johnson for the Chargers, the receiver out of TCU. I know at one point in the draft process, he was being talked as the number 1 potential receiver. Again, I watched quite a few TCU games this year. He never really kind of stood off the screen to me. He's a big body guy. He has some speed, but he doesn't ever generate separations. If you watch a lot of his catches, there's usually somebody within 5 yards of him. So he really wasn't routing dudes up. Again, I like that. I think from my understanding, he's a really nice person, and I hope everything works out for him. He's going to be in LA with the Chargers, where he'll be behind Keenan Allen, and he'll also be behind Mike Williams. So that should give him plenty of opportunity to grow. And if he becomes a wide receiver 3 for them throughout his career, that should be good. But I don't see him ever becoming an alpha dog. I don't ever see us talking about him as the number 1 quarterback. He can't separate in college. Guys don't usually separate in the NFL. And my last one was Brian Breesy. This one kind of surprised me. I really didn't know a whole lot about him. I knew he's a D tackle from Clemson. I didn't watch a whole lot of Clemson games this year. They just weren't fun to watch, and I didn't feel like crying on a Saturday. Even when New Orleans was putting out their highlight tape for him, we drafted Brian, it was mostly about him at a high school combine, I believe, where he was just bullying dudes around. And even when you watch that, you can see there's no technique there. It's a whole lot of big bodies and bad attitude. So again, I did see some of him. I did see some of his actual highlight tape from Clemson, and a lot of the ways he was able to get open was usually defensive end stunts, or quarterbacks stepped up in the pocket right into him. There wasn't a whole lot of evidence of him, swimming, counter moving, setting guys up for future, getting by quarterback guards to get to the quarterback. So for me, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being a guy that gets cut after year 3. So
that's fair. Just for the essence of time, I'm going to go through my 5 players who I think will do well, kind of rapid fire right here. Number 1, I think Bryce Young. I know it's going to be rookie next year. Every rookie quarterback is going to struggle, but I actually don't think the Panthers roster is that bad, and his division is relatively weak right now. I think that he is going to do well there. I think he was the best quarterback talent in this draft. Give him a few more weapons. I think he's going to be solid. Number 2, I have the Hendon Hooker. Not sure when he will get the chance to play. Right now, he's behind Jared Goff. He's actually also hurt, but I think he's going to be solid for the Lions. If they do decide to move on from Goff next season, I can see Hooker doing pretty well for at least the rest of his rookie deal. Number 3, I got Darnell Washington for the Steelers out of Georgia. I know Pat Freiermuth is there. Freiermuth is also a dog, right? So Darnell is going to have to share some of the targets, whatever. So maybe his stats might not be as great as the other tight ends in this class, but seeing as though he is 6'8", 270, he's pretty much a 6th lineman out there. He's going to support a lot in the run, which I know is hard to show up in the stats, but I still think he's going to do well. 1, as a passing threat, and 2, in the run support. Number 4, I got Zay Flowers for the Ravens. He's basically stepping up in that old Hollywood Brown role. He's going to be that fast slot guy. A lot of people had him as the number 1 receiver overall over GSN. I think he's going to be a great playmaker for the Ravens. Number 5, I sound like a homer here since I am a Bears fan, but Roschon Johnson, I think he's going to do well. I know I just gave you my hot take. I think he might be a day 1 starter for the Bears, seeing as though the Bears is going to be a run-heavy team. I still think they're going to be run-heavy even if they just improve the O-line. I still think Justin Fields is going to obviously pass a lot more. They're one of the lowest passing attempts teams next year, but even though all that being said, the Bears are still going to run the ball. That is what they do. I think Roschon Johnson in a 6'2", 230 frame is going to do pretty well in that offense. On the flip side, 5 players who I think will not pan out. Number 1, Will Levis. I was not high in this guy at all. I didn't get the hype of him being top 5. The game tape wasn't there for me. I know a lot of people love the combine. I know this dude has like negative 5% body fat, right? He is shredded. That does not mean that he is going to be a great quarterback. I had him as my most likely player to bust. Number 2, Zach Harrison. A lot of Buckeye fans are going to hate me because he is from Ohio State, but he was a former 5-star recruit that just didn't blossom like how he was expected to at Ohio State. I'm not sure if that will come out in the NFL. I hope he proves me wrong. I wish him well. I just don't see it happening. For a 3rd-round pick, I think that he's going to be a bust. Number 3, Jalen Carter. Same reasons you listed. High risk, high reward there. I hope for his sake his mental health is in check. I know he was kind of battling a lot of mental health stuff. He came in the pro day out of shape, all that stuff, right? I hope he rights the ship and he does well in the Eagles there. I know the Eagles have a great support system there, a great locker room, so I hope the best for him. But again, you kind of wonder, will he be able to figure things out? Number 4, Anthony Richardson, great athlete. But like you said, if you're lacking a certain trait in the college game, you most likely won't find it in the NFL. I think that he is going to jump into the fire too soon. He only played total of 13 games last year, 12 games last year, 12 or 13 games in his entire career by that fact. I just don't think he has experience. He was only a redshirt sophomore coming out of college. I think given the right system, if he was waiting a year, you could make the case that he would not be a bust. But if you're going to throw him out there, does not have a whole lot of experience, who knows? Who knows what will happen there, right? My last one, Tyree Wilson, the Texas Tech edge who went to the Raiders at the number 7 pick, solely based off injury history. Like you said, history sometimes doesn't always repeat, but most times it does. He had a couple foot issues that raised a lot of red flags for a lot of teams. Again, I hope him the best. I wish he finds health. I hope he stays healthy. But you have to wonder, are his injuries going to be nagging and will they eventually be career-ending stuff?
Yep. Yeah,
And
I mean, it's
that's it.
unfortunate. It's not a section you like to do. You don't like to sit here and project people to bust. Especially like I know we both kind of talked about Anthony Richardson. You need to go through the college process and pick up that ability to process defenses, because I think the casual fan kind of forgets is these plays happen within 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking about guys dropping, D linemen dropping, safeties rolling. 3 seconds can be a big deal, and then that's the difference between throwing it at the defense or completing a touchdown. So I don't know if he even developed that skill. He had a 58% completion percentage at Florida, and Will Levis is the same way. It's not like it's just Anthony Richardson, like it's crap on Anthony Richardson day. Will Levis was the same thing. He had 1 year of absolute not great football. I mean, I don't know his interceptions off the top of my head, but it was a lot of the same things. He just wasn't very accurate. Guys just don't find it, and then he gets
not to completely just crap on Will Levis. He couldn't.
You can crap on Will Levis.
He couldn't beat Sean Clifford for a starting job at Penn State. I mean, it's again not the crap on him, but I kind of have to. You can't think about that a little bit. He couldn't beat out Sean Clifford, who was a 5th round pick this year. I do want
to get to the last question, Brendan, before we head out of here. Yes. What is your biggest hot take from the 2023 NFL draft? What's going to get you canceled? What's going to be on everyone's Twitter, having everyone going, who the hell are these two idiots? What is your biggest hot take?
About the draft or for the season, overall?
For the 2023 NFL draft.
NFL draft. I think when it's all said and done, again, I might sound like a homer. I might sound biased. I might be swayed. But at some point, I think CJ Stroud will be an all-pro quarterback. That is my hot take. Don't know when.
All-pro
CJ. It could be 10 years from now. I don't know when. But at some point, he's going to be an all-pro quarterback. And I say that because there was a smear campaign against him for the past 2 weeks about the S2 scores. He sucks. This and that. I think that he is just getting to the peak of his performance. Dude, his game against Georgia was great. I think if he played that game every single game of his career, he would have been the first overall pick. I'll go as far as say a hot take. I don't think it would have been close at all with Bryce Young if he played the way he did it against Georgia for every single game. I think that he is a great talent. I'm really excited for him to prove a lot of people wrong.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. That was a fantastic game. I really like CJ Stroud. Problem for me, as always, with him is consistency. I need Georgia CJ every week. I can't have Georgia CJ only in one game of the playoffs, because we need to get to the playoffs in order for you to play like that. But that's a good hot take. We'll see how that ages. My biggest hot take from this 2023 NFL draft will be, I believe this will be a very forgettable draft. I think this is one of those ones that we look back in 6, 7, 8 years and go, who the hell was in that draft again? Kind of a little bit like the 2013 draft where we had Eric Fisher go number 1 overall, and you kind of look back and oh yeah, I think this guy was in there. Was Aaron Donald in that draft? I get those kind of vibes. I don't think there's a whole lot of superstar talent in there. I think even if you look at Bryce Young, there's a potential for him to bust. You look at all the guys that were supposed to be the best in the draft, and they all seem like they could go either way. It doesn't feel like there's a surefire, Nick Bosa, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence kind of a guy in this draft. So, we'll see how it pans out. I may be wrong. This may end up being the greatest NFL draft of all time, being the 2011 and 2007 classes out. But to me, I think this is kind of when we look back on and go, who was in that one again?
I mean, dude, who knows? I could also be wrong, but I'm going to join you in that. This draft was super, super weak. I mean, I don't know. There's always a couple of studs, right? There's a couple of guys out of here going to be really, really good.
Pro Bowls out of this, for sure.
Yeah. But overall, very weak class.
And it's a weak draft when before the draft starts, they're already talking about the 2024 draft.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's how you kind of get those vibes. So again, I think there's a lot of depth pieces. That doesn't mean there's not a lot of stars in this draft. Doesn't mean some of these guys won't get some Pro Bowls or maybe one will get an All Pro. I just don't see it as we're looking at this and like, oh my God, there was 6 Hall of Famers in that draft class.
Yeah.
So.
Agreed. Agreed. All right, my man. I think that is a good first episode of the Rational Football League show. Do you have anything else to add before we hop off here?
No, I don't. I think we kind of covered everything. I think it was a great conversation. I think it was again, aside from our intentional hot takes, I think most of our opinions about everything seemed to kind of fall within the realm of rationality. Everyone could succeed, everyone could fail. We explained why either way. So I think I'm satisfied with the way it went.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel the same way. And if you tuned in to this episode, thank you so much. Again, I am Brendan Ford. He is Emmett Swarat. You can find me at Brendan Ford on Twitter. If you find him at Emmett at Allen on Twitter. And I think that's basically it, man.
Yeah, sounds good. Until next time.
All right. Till next time, guys. I'll see you.